storytelling is a powerful tool for community development as it fosters a shared identity and empathy amongst communities. Today, Chioniso Tsikisayi, an artist that uses storytelling to express herself, joins us to share at length what this looks like. So as we're getting started, can you please introduce yourself to our viewers?
Okay. My name is Chioniso Tsikisayi, and I am a spoken word artist and filmmaker. So in essence, I'm a storyteller. Any medium or art form that I can use to tell a story, if I can learn it, I will dabble in it. So telling a story on theater stages, page poetry, film, music, fashion, those are the art forms that I lean towards. So I create from a need to express. I usually think that there's no grand reason why creators create. It's more just you need to put something out there somewhere and you need to put it down. So the best way to do that is to put it in a container, and art is the best container to put some of our emotions.
Interesting. I think looking at your projects, for example, Queue for a Dream and Bureau de Change, there are specific social, issues that you actually tackle. So my question then becomes, what kind of angle were you coming from? What is it that you had realized in the communities that actually translated to you doing those projects?
So social issues is just a very grand term to talk about what affects you. And since you're an individual living within a society, then it becomes a social issue. So I'd first say that when I wrote Queue for a Dream, I was speaking from the perspective of being someone who's waiting for my aspirations to become a reality. And then I extended that metaphor to then include the Zimbabwean narrative, that most of the times we are people who queue for things. We people who queue for our money, queue for our change, fuel, queue to get onto your combi to go home. So all of that, if you're watching Queue for a Dream and you're watching it from a political lens or social lens, it applies to you. If you're watching it from a personal lens, it applies to you. So all of that covered in Queue for a Dream. Then it leads into Bureau de Change, which is after you're done queuing, most of the times you enter the space where you're collecting the money, right? So after that, when you're in the Bureau de Change, what are you exchanging and what do you get from that transaction? That's the conversation that I wanted to have.
What would you say is the essence, probably from an individual perspective?
Okay.
Who likes stories? Do you think we are story people? Do we love stories so much?
Definitely. As long as you are having a conversation with someone, even texting, you are someone who likes a story, because human beings are relational beings and our currency is how we communicate with one another. So that conversation that happens when you leave the house, the conversation that happens at the workplace, the conversation that happens at school, all of that is part of storytelling. But what makes conversations interesting is the people who are telling those stories. So I feel that then translates to why even people in corporate spaces, when they're done and they go back home, they have a series that they want to catch up on. Yeah. They've got a podcast that they need to listen to, because you need that break from just the statistics that we're living by, the numbers that we're living by as people.
So when we are looking at, the various socio-economic challenges that are affecting communities, why would you say storytelling is an important tool to showcase that?
So a basic example that I can give, let's say we're creating a hypothetical situation. Let's say that there's a local school near where you live and you are the filmmaker. You have this product, you go and speak to the people at the school. Maybe when school's closed, like now, end of term, we can have entertainment for the children, and you invite various stakeholders. You rent out the school hall, you play the film. That experience is different to someone handing you a report card and saying, look at these numbers and qualitative data. Because when you have people visually interact with something, it stays in their mind more than when they're just looking at stuff on a graph. So that's the essence and the importance of then taking those community stories. And the truth is that no one is going to broadcast an issue that's not personal to them. So if we wait for other people to tell our stories, they're never going to be told. So whatever scale you start at small, at least you will have someone to say, this is what my neighborhood looks like, and these are the voices that speak on behalf of what? My neighborhood. Similar to how most of us, we know about the Comptons, the Sowetos, because of the art, the culture, the music, what hip-hop artists then paint about their neighborhoods. We know about that more than we would know about our own neighborhoods. So that's why it's important for us to then bring those stories to the community, and for people to actually be aware, oh, it's not just me who's suffering from the water shortage, and it's not just me who's complaining about it. All of us are. So what do we do then after that?
Interesting. I think the way that you say that art then becomes our, or kind of enhances our consciousness of certain issues. There's something that you said on your TEDx talk. Congratulations, by the way, for that. Where you actually signaled how recycling has always been a part of us.
Yes.
And highlighting that we've always, recycled our traditions and our customs. And I thought for a second that that means something if we're looking at issues such as climate change and recycling as a sustainability solution as well, in terms of, okay, so if people look at it as something that has always been a part of them, it will then kind of inspire what it is that they do with that information. So probably my question then becomes, how does packaging, in storytelling matter? Why does it matter the way that you package how you're telling a story?
Because packaging lasts depending on what you're using to package. And packaging that's been decorated nicely is also very appealing. So you would want something that's durable, you want something that's sustainable, and you also want something that looks aesthetically pleasing. So I try to think about those things when I'm making my work, that yes, there's an important message that I want to share, but I also don't want it to read like a biology report or something. So I need to make it colorful. I need to make the visuals interactive and arresting. I need to make the frames speak of their own accord, because that's what captures us as people. And then going back to the conversation about recycling, that's something I learned, especially watching how my grandparents would interact. My grandmother was someone who was very much of the earth. So that all of that would then make me think, no, recycling is a part of us, because how long have these clay pots been around? How long has that three-legged pot that we use at big occasions been around? And when she's done with those things, most likely she's going to pass them on. So that's how we then keep stuff within our societies. Preservation then leads to even how we name ourselves and name our children. So for some people like my grandparents as well, who had their kids in the Rhodesian era before it was Zimbabwe, their kids had Christian names, but then they had a Shona name. And then when we came along, we were all just given Shona names. So it was that again, like preservation of language, preservation of who you are, so that you always know. So in essence, we are recycled containers of our parents, but we're always improving. So each model becomes better and better, packaging and how we intellectualize ourselves. It's that same concept.
So, one thing is most of these conversations occur in formal spaces where corporate or CSOs are taking a lead in conversations such as, climate change. But now when we're talking about storytelling, there is need to align the artist and the corporate. But what I understand is that there hasn't yet been the full appreciation of what value the artists bring. So if you're in conversation with that, individual, what would you say is the value that you bring?
Innovation is what I bring to the table, and a different lens at looking for things. I feel that sometimes what cripples us as creatives and as storytellers is that we think that we live separately. Not all of us, a small percentage of us feel that we live separate from all the other spaces within society. But the truth is we are always intersecting, and a corporate person is likely going to be in an art space. They're likely going to be at that jazz club or cafe or reading or recital. So it's not a thing to say that if you're one thing you can't be the other. And the person who lives at the intersection of being an artist corporate or a corporate artist actually translates for both parties, so that whoever is not understanding can see it through that person. So we are people who interpret, and we are people who translate, not just language, but also in different factions of society, you need to be someone who can pivot each space.
Yeah, I mean, I understand that. And I think because we've touched a bit on corporate, that becomes kind of a collaboration in a firm.
Yeah.
And in your projects, collaboration has also been, the biggest part of how you present the things that you talk about as well. So why is that important? Because you are collaborating amongst artists themselves, and now we are also kind of extending that to corporate space as well. So why is collaboration in storytelling essential, so that such issues that affect communities can actually really be understood from multiple levels, I suppose, since it will be coming from different people with different following?
Collaboration is key because there's always going to be strength in numbers. So the aspect of storytelling being communal goes back again to being by the fireside. Our grandparents or our great-grandparents can't tell stories to a vacuum. They would need someone, if there's a call and response, kare kare kajo, right? And there's someone who responds. So that essence to say, when we're gathered around the fire, we need an audience, because when you speak, you need someone who echoes back to you. Is very important. And what I learned the last time that I was in Nairobi, there's a word that we share with Swahili, both Swahili and Shona. Ngano is folktale or inganegwani, right? But in Nairobi, ngano is flour. So in essence, flour and our stories, we're baking narratives for people to enjoy. So I think that's why we need to collaborate as much as possible.
Yeah. Thank you so much for that. And I think conclusively, because the discussion has been around storytelling as a tool to enhance sustainability. But what can you say in terms of ensuring that storytelling itself is sustainable, can continue, beyond where we are right now? What is it that you can say? It could be ways that artists could adapt to the changing times, or whatever it is that you think. How do you see, or why is it important to also consider storytelling in this sustainability conversation?
I've been part of various initiatives. Last year I was part of the film fellowship under Accountability Lab Zimbabwe with the new narratives version of it. So they have now extended their incubator to talk about climate justice and digital governance. And then from the musical front, I've been part of programs like Music Connects Africa, which is powered by Terminal One Africa, a division of K Media, and supported by the British Council and Southern African Arts. So I would say that as an artist, a lot of things you don't need to do heavy lifting if you can just be part of initiatives.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for joining us today. It was very informative.
Thank you so much.
From me, your host, and the Community Podium team, thank you for joining us for this episode. Please ensure that you are subscribed to our YouTube channel and our social media pages at Community Podium so that you stay abreast of what is happening. Thank you. See you next time.